It's the Bradfield Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a full-service, family-run flooring company, and by McAllen Construction Company. Woman-owned, small minority business, McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail. I am Dan Lovallo. He is meteorologist Bradfield. We are putting this podcast together on January the 8th. And Brad, we're going to do something a little bit different in this podcast, and then we're going to start right by looking at our crystal ball segment, which normally comes in the middle of the podcast because there is a lot going on which is going to affect our weather future. So let's start there.
All right, for snow lovers and winter weather lovers, the short range is boring as can be. But when we look at the long range, a lot of exciting things have already begun to happen, Dan. There's something called a stratospheric warming event going on 18 miles straight up above the North Pole. Now, this phenomenon has been heavily researched in the last decade or so, and we find that a little bit better than 50% of the time these stratospheric warming events happen. Now, what happens is the atmosphere has dramatically warmed. In the atmosphere, we've got the troposphere, which is where most of the weather occurs. And then before you get up into outer space, you have the stratosphere. So the stratosphere is the very top of the Earth's atmosphere. And again, this is like if you went over the North Pole and went straight up 18 miles up into the sky, you would be up into the stratosphere. Well, today is January 8th. Since January 5th, we have had a major stratospheric warming event taking place. And as I said, this is a brand new phenomenon over the last decade or so being studied. There are causes, there are effects. We've talked a lot in our podcast, for example, when there is an El Nino condition in the tropical waters of the Pacific. What does that mean for the weather in Connecticut? Well, we're seeing that the cause is the El Nino, the warm waters in the Pacific. The effect is a typically mild and rainy winter in Connecticut where, most of the skiers and snowboarders are very depressed. So we've got the cause and the effect. These stratospheric warming events, they start to work down from the upper atmosphere, the stratosphere, into the troposphere, and then they start to change the weather over the North Pole. And then that fans out from there. This stratospheric warming event is such that the scientists now are predicting 2 polar vortexes will break off. One will come down and move toward northern Europe, and the other one will come down into Canada and then eventually into the lower 48 of the United States. Now, when you look at the cause and the effect, what ends up happening when these polar vortexes break off is that it can get really cold. And then it can get huge storms that form on the demarcation line between the Arctic cold coming south and, say, the Gulf Stream waters out in the Western Atlantic. You can get significant storms to form. Now, add into that, Dan, we were talking, I know in the last podcast and probably the one before that, we were starting to see some Greenland blocking set up, what is called the North Atlantic Oscillation. The North Atlantic Oscillation is going negative, or it has gone negative. These stratospheric warming should enhance that block such that when you look at the long-range pattern now for late January, we'll say beginning, between about a week from now. So let's say like Thursday, January 14th through Sunday, January 17th. Start to look for major changes in the lower 48. So as I say, for the next week or so, it's boring. This would be like New England displaced San Diego, where in San Diego you get sunny and 70, sunny and 70, sunny and 70, sunny and 70 day after day. I'm looking at for the next 7 days, sunny and in the 30s, sunny and in the 30s, sunny and in the 30s. So it's boring as can be through the middle part of next week. Then that's when the changes start to take place. So to kind of go over this again, Dan, we're seeing a dramatic spike in the temperature occurring right now in the high latitudes straight up above the North Pole. Significant repercussions ahead. The polar vortex will displace and move south. This favors big snowstorms. Some of the analog years that some of the scientists are using, Micah Judah, Mike Ventris from Weather Nation, they're calling for analog years like 1978, like 1996, like 2003, like 2009, 2010, like 2013. Remember what happened in February of 2013 when Ansonia set the state record for over 3 feet of snow in one 24-hour period. We're looking at blocking developing, which will slow down moving storms. Now, I am trying to understand exactly how this stratospheric warming takes place. And I did a little research this morning that what happens is the stratospheric ozone high above the North Pole absorbs the UV radiation emitted by the sun. The radiation transfers its energy to the ozone molecules, warming it rapidly. So you've got the heat transfer occurring between these molecules 18 miles above the North Pole, with mostly via radiation, mostly via conduction, but you're getting that rapid warming. So we're getting those rising temperatures in the stratosphere, displacing the cold air to the south. Some of the meteorological projections looking 2 weeks out have the cold air blasting into Western Canada, blasting into the northern plains, moving into places like Chicago. We're looking at perhaps temperatures 15 to 30 degrees below normal by the end of January. Even in New York City, they're projecting the temperatures to be as much as 5 degrees below normal per day. And when you're in the middle of winter, that's significant. So 5 degrees below normal per day from late January through at least the middle part of February. So the weather words cold and stormy are on my mind as we look into late January to the middle part of February. And the Greenland Ridge will produce these amplified and intense but very slow moving storms. There will be a lot of cold advection into the eastern third of the United States. And Dan, to wrap this part of our program up again, I think this is going to begin about a week hence. Let's say from January 14th through January 17th, we will start seeing some of these effects in the lower 48.
So when you look at the weather map, then, from a seasonal standpoint, essentially the first month of winter has been relatively calm and quiet, but the remaining winter, all you know what is going to break loose. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think very fair to say. You know, our biggest snow months obviously are December, January, February, and March. And, we're not even 50% through yet of our snowy time. And we've already had at Bradley 17.4 inches of snow. So even in the lower producing months, if you will, we're still registering a good amount of snow. So I see going forward, if you're a plow operator, I would see dollar signs. If you're a ski area owner or have some kind of stock in a ski area or a snowboarding area, I think they are going to go gangbusters in late January, February, and March.
So what you're saying, if you're a plow operator or a ski owner, owner of a ski resort, you're about to get a stimulus.
And it's not coming from the government. This is coming from Ma Nature.
Amazing. I want to take just a moment to talk about one of the underwriters for our Bradfield Weather Podcast, Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a full-service, licensed family-run flooring company serving the region. Action Carpet and Floor Covering was founded in 1993 by Kevin Blake, and Action Carpet and Floor Covering serves both residential and commercial customers, offering brand-name floor covering products in vinyl, laminate, hardwood, carpet, area rugs, and tile, plus backsplash. Action Carpet and Floor Covering installs also offers free estimates on all installations. Free quotes are offered for insurance estimates, high pressure or hot water extraction, stripping and waxing of floors, upholstery cleaning, restoration, area rug cleaning, and much, much more. Action Carpet and Floor Covering wants its customers to be beyond satisfied. They want to be considered their customers' one and only floor covering company. Call Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury today at 860-651-8406. That's 860-651-8406. Or go online at action-carpet.com. Action-carpet.com. This is such a significant facet to what our weather's going to be like, but now let's take a look at the weather map currently. What's going on? I'm seeing some stuff taking place in the Mid-Atlantic. What's happening on the current weather map?
Well, yeah, exactly, Dan. One thing I want to say in wrapping up this stratospheric warming event is that sometimes you look at a computer model and something is speculative, something is projected to happen. The thing I want to point out to our listeners here is this stratosphere warming event is happening. It started on January 5th. So this is not sort of a theory. This is happening. So the air 18 miles above the North Pole has warmed 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 3 days. So this is a very dramatic event taking shape in the stratosphere over the North Pole. It will work its way to the surface, and when it works its way to the surface, it will displace the polar vortex to the south, which is going to lead to all, as you said, breaking loose.
By the way, before we go to the On the Weather Map segment, one other follow-up question. How deep is this vortex going to go? I mean, is it going to get unseasonably cold deep into the south, for example?
Well, good question. The scientists say that the polar vortex will set up on some, quote, unfortunate part of the globe wherever it decides to go. Now, climatology shows us that typically comes down through Canada, moves down towards Chicago and into the Great Lakes region. And I bet you, Dan, if you went back and listened to our podcast of the winter weather forecast, this is what we said exactly, that this is where that cold air was going to set up. So if you've got the Arctic air there, globally, that is a neighbor of ours. Chicago and the Great Lakes are nearby when you come to a global outlook. So the Arctic air is nearby. Then you've got, so say it's 10 below zero in Chicago and the Gulf Stream waters are 70 degrees. So you've got an 80-degree spread in temperature over maybe 1,000 miles of longitude. That is a big thermal gradient, and that is how these surface storms set up. So if you get a surface storm somewhere between where that Arctic cold resides and where the Gulf Stream waters are, what does that mean? You've got a lot of East Coast storms coming right up the eastern seaboard. Then they run into the Greenland block. So then what happens to them? They slow down. So you put all these things together. We've got what we say is the players are on the field. Remember Hoosiers?
Yep.
They, Gene Hackman goes, "My team is on the floor." All right. We've got the Arctic cold, we've got the storm track, and we've got the blocking pattern. Now, this is all in theory, but the Vegas odds, are very good on all of these things materializing. They're saying, the scientists that are researching this, 70% accuracy in their predictions of this polar vortex breaking off and coming south. So better than 2 out of 3 odds that what I'm telling you is going to happen.
Well, make sure the oil tank is filled and the snowblower is primed, because it's going to see a lot of activity over the next couple of months then. That seems to be the case.
I would say so. Yeah. And my buddy Ken McCartney, who plows for me and many in my neighborhood, is going to be smiling ear to ear when he hears what I'm saying here.
All right. Now, on a more immediate note, as we go to our On the Weather Map segment, what is happening?
By the way, too, I'm just talking about Granby when I say Ken McCartney. Our sponsor, yes. McAllen Construction. I mean, you can talk more about that, but Mike's down in Prospect, Connecticut, and all his trucks, I think, are going to be busy with all the snowplow activities. But finally, I digress. Let's go to the On the Weather Map segment. Remember last week, Dan? I was saying that toward this time, low pressure would be coming up the coast. And right now we've got, as you said, problems in the mid-Atlantic. The low is off North Carolina. Last week, the GFS model showed the storm coming up and hitting us with snow. The European model, which you know that I favor, showed that it would miss. Well, it appears the European model is going to be correct. It looks like this storm is going to go out to sea under us to our south. High pressure is in control in the Great Lakes. By this evening, that high in the Great Lakes will be ridging across southern New England. Typical winter night, clear sky, temperatures in the teens and low 20s in southern New England. Saturday morning, the Carolina low passing out to sea well to the south and east of us. High pressure over the Great Lakes. So Friday looks good. Saturday looks good. Sunday, that high pressure system will be from western New York, roughly Buffalo, to about Paducah, Kentucky. So it keeps us sunny, keeps us cold on Sunday. By Monday, that high is going to be in New England, ridging back to Missouri. So as I said, this weather is boring. Friday, sunny in the 30s. Saturday, sunny in the 30s. Sunday, sunny in the 30s. Monday, sunny in the 30s. Tuesday, that Gulf of Mexico low moves to the Carolinas. I think that will probably be the last one that misses us. I'm not sure it will, because if the blocking keeps strengthening, then that may turn this low more up the coast. So that's something we're going to have to watch over the next several days. You can always get updates daily at bradfieldweather.com for your Connecticut forecast. Wednesday, I'm going to say at this point, Dan, that low moves out to sea, high over Maine. But here's where the trouble begins. Thursday, a low will be diving into Minnesota. Guess what's behind it?
The polar
vortex. And then on Friday, a very significant front approaching us from the west. When that front hits the ocean and the Arctic air hits the Gulf Stream waters, this is when the action could begin. So think of it as a NASA countdown. It's T-minus 6 days and counting, and we'll see what happens. But I think from 6 days or 7 days hence, we will be sort of sitting on a meteorological tinder keg.
Wow. Well, it's winter. This is something that you had talked about earlier, and it seems to be coming to fruition. And, well, this is significant. This is probably as significant a weather situation that we have talked about in the history of this podcast, Brad. And this is episode 125. So,
yeah, I think this is the first time ever we did the crystal ball segment first, but I thought this by far was the most interesting feature to talk about today, because when we get to the forecast, which I think we're going to do in about a minute here, it is boring as can be.
I want to take just a moment to talk about one of the underwriters for our Bradfield Weather Podcast, Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a full-service, licensed family-run flooring company serving the region. Action Carpet and Floor Covering was founded in 1993 by Kevin Blake, and Action Carpet and Floor Covering serves both residential and commercial customers, offering brand-name floor covering products in vinyl, laminate, hardwood, carpet, area rugs, and tile, plus backsplash. Action Carpet and Floor Covering installs also offers free estimates on all installations. Free quotes are offered for insurance estimates, high pressure or hot water extraction, stripping and waxing of floors, upholstery cleaning, restoration, area rug cleaning, and much, much more. Action Carpet and Floor Covering wants its customers to be beyond satisfied. They want to be considered their customers' one and only floor covering company. Call Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury today at 860-651-8406. That's 860-651-8406. Or go online at action-carpet.com. Action-carpet.com. Again, we're putting this podcast together on Friday, January 8th. So what does our immediate forecast look like?
Well, Dan, this afternoon will be sunny with temperatures in the 30s. I'd say maybe 36 to 42 north to south across the state. Overnight tonight, it will be clear, looking for most of us in the teens. Bridgeport, Norwalk, New Haven, they may be about 21, 22 for the low temperature. Saturday looks mainly sunny, temperature in the 30s. Saturday night, clear, again, 16 to 22. Sunday looks sunny and in the 30s. Monday looks sunny in the 30s. Tuesday looks sunny in the 30s. Wednesday, I'll call it mostly sunny in the 30s. And then Thursday, increasing clouds, high temperature around 40, but a major cold front bearing down on the east. So it's always warmest just before the cold front. So that Thursday, when it's up near 40, people may be walking around with a false sense of like, this is not bad. What the heck is that Bradfield and Dan Lovallo talking about? You'll know by next weekend.
Okay, major changes for sure. Well, and that's going to put a wrap on our podcast, Brad. As you know, a big thank you to our first responders. We always like to thank them. They're on the front line facing new challenges every day. So a big thank you to our first responders and to you and Sandy and to our podcast audience. Have a great weekend and stay tuned because we'll be updating and fine-tuning these podcasts throughout what's going to be a significant weather period.
Yeah, you too, Dan, to you and Susan and to our podcast audience. Thank you for tuning in and, keep spreading the word. Our podcast is slowly growing. And thank you to our great sponsors.
You bet. And the Bradfield Weather Podcast has been underwritten by McAllen Construction Company, a woman-owned small minority business. McAllen Construction, from the first dig to the last nail. And by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, a full-service, family-run flooring company.